Good morning. Here we are. So, how is it going? What is going well? That is something that I always start with my coaching clients, and I'm going to ask you, type it in the comments, what is going well for you yesterday or this morning, all of it. Give me something to go on. Because we tend to focus on what isn't going well. We tend to focus on the things that are challenging, or the to-do list, or the things that haven't been done yet, or any of that stuff. And we so easily forget all the incredible that we've done. And this happens in my life. I'm sure it happens in your life. So let's break out of it. So what's going well for me is I have I'm on day 2 of the cleanse right now, depending on, when you're watching this video. And I am trying the Cocoa Mango Tango smoothie, which is really fun. I love trying new recipes, and I tend to always do them in my own way. So I added kale and blueberries to this, as opposed to buying a different protein powder. I have a big old thing of almonds that I get off Amazon. And I can even share with you, the exact ones that I get. So I kind of made my own little smoothie. And I put it in said fancy glass that was my grandmother's, because for me, when I am nourishing myself, sometimes I tend to I'll make something, let's say fancy or beautiful for someone else if I'm preparing it for them, but for myself, I'll just pick out a whatever really quick. I won't really give enough attention to that. So the fancy glass is to remind me I am worthy. I am doing a good job. I am enough. So a silly little glass can turn into a big deal. Okay, so I want to talk to you about elimination today. Most of us, I have found, really do not know how our bodies should be working. I don't want this to be the case for anyone anymore, and this is something that I really want to shout from the hills, and so I'm going to share it with you. The way that we eliminate is we eliminate through sweat, okay? So first and foremost, making sure that you are moving, that you are sweating, that is a form of detox. Secondly, a form of elimination, or shall we say, detox for lack of a better word, is getting adequate sleep, because it is in the middle of the night, especially towards, the 1, 2, 3 o'clock a.m. time frame, that you really should be, your body is naturally kind of working at its capacity. Now, if you have a different schedule from working or anything else, the body is able really to adjust to that, but it still needs that good quality amount of sleep, okay? There is also urinating and having bowel movements. And so that's what I want to spend the majority of time today, because these are the things we tend to know about the sleep. We tend to know about sweat. Does that mean we necessarily do it? No, but we can change that. But typically people don't really know about how often they should be going to the bathroom, okay? And there's a science behind it. So let's talk about going number 1 first. So urinating. If your urine can tell you so much about how your body is functioning. We typically tend to think about the dehydration phase. So let's take that a step further. Typically, people will sometimes pinch their skin and see if they're dehydrated or whatnot. If your urine color is not on the clearer side, it does not need to be completely clear, because that means you've almost overhydrated, but it should be a lighter yellow straw color, okay? If it's like that, then that means that you're adequately hydrated, and it means typically, now, people can vary, but it also means that you should be needing to urinate every 2 to 3 hours during the day. That is what is normal and expected for urination, is urinating every 2 to 3 hours during the day. And if you are not doing that, if you're going beyond that, it tends to mean that you are actually dehydrated. Okay, and so your body is not functioning as well as it is. The same way, if you've not been drinking a lot of liquids or water, or you've been drinking different liquids as opposed to water, you will find that the color tends to be a lot bolder, of your urine, and that is not exactly what we want. Okay, even going so far as because I'm not a big coffee drinker. I'll drink it some, probably more so than I ever have in my life. But if I'm gonna have coffee, urine is gonna smell very different in that case. Okay. Now I will also preface all of this by saying that if you are on medications, some medications definitely change coloring and consistency and timing. So again, this is a blanket kind of generalized statement. Okay, so you should be going every 2 to 3 hours during the day. You should not necessarily have to go more than that. You should not have to go urgently, meaning that you need to always know where the bathroom is, or that you need to rush and get there quickly. I call that the push the old lady out of the way syndrome. I'm doing a podcast later today with a group called Fit to Be out west about urgency. And so that urgency where you're like, come on, get out of my way, I gotta get there fast, typically means that the bladder lining is irritated. And it's typically irritated by stress and or habits and or foods or drinks that you're having. Because a lot of times we're not eating clean, right? We tend to be eating more very acidic foods or foods that are irritating to the bladder. There are actually foods that are irritating to the bladder. A lot of them include the nightshade vegetables, such as the tomatoes and the peppers and the eggplants. Citrus can be one. Gluten can be one. High sugar can be one. Spices, so spicy foods can be one. Carbonated drinks, caffeinated and decaffeinated drinks. Alcohol, coffee, juices. So I don't say this so that you never have this stuff again, but I want you to really start putting on your Sherlock Holmes hat and go, what is happening with my elimination? And how can I improve my elimination? Okay. When you're urinating, it should take about 8+ seconds if your bladder is really full. Isn't that interesting? And if you have a good steady stream, sometimes due to what's called prolapse, or where the organs are kind of slightly out of place, the stream, or other reasons, the stream will not really be very effective. So that again is kind of an outlier, and we can certainly discuss that in an individual case. But in general, you should have a good steady stream when you empty. And if your bladder was really full, it should take you about 8 or more seconds to empty. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, okay? So again, put your Sherlock Holmes hat on, and as you're going throughout your day and you're drinking your water and you're doing everything that we're doing, see if you can pay attention to how long you're urinating and when it's happening, because that will give you some really good information to know if you're dehydrated or if you're eating or drinking something that really doesn't agree with your bladder. The bladder lining is about as sensitive as the eye, believe it or not. So it's like if I was to squirt lemon juice into your eye, what does your eye automatically do? It blinks and it waters, right? And you don't get to just say, oh, let me wait for a little while for that to happen. No, it's just going to start doing it. So the bladder is the same way. If we put something in there that it doesn't like, it's just going to immediately want to kick that out. Okay? And why? Why don't we learn and pay attention to the foods and the drinks that we're putting in and going, oh yeah, it doesn't feel good, that's not working. And then you can make a shift, as opposed to someone saying, oh, this is the diet and you should eat this or you shouldn't eat that. Not necessarily. Everybody's different. Everybody's makeup is different. So yes, there are absolutely rules and guidelines that you can follow, but there are differences from person to person. I've seen it so often. I've seen people who, coffee is on the list that is not great for the bladder because it can irritate the bladder. Well, dark roast is actually easier than light roast. And some people respond very well to certain brands of coffee, and they respond worse, meaning more urgency and frequency. They have to go really quickly with other brands of coffee. Who would have known? Oh, that's so good. Okay, so Just make sure that you're thinking about that. Now at night, unless you are in your upper 80s, this always really surprises people, you should not have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. A lot of people do. A lot of times it's habit driven. Okay, so that's okay. But I just want to, for you to just be aware that you really shouldn't necessarily have to. So it's every 2 to 3 hours during the day, once at night. That's anywhere from 5 to 8 times in a 24-hour period. Okay, so we can start kind of up leveling and making sure and using this elimination method to determine the health of our bodies. How cool is that? It's awesome. Then let's talk about bowel movements. So there's a really cool thing called the Bristol stool scale. And if you would like, you can put it in the comments and I will try to leave a link there for the Bristol stool scale, or you can Google it. It's Bristol, B-R-I-S-T-O-L, stool scale. Okay. When you are with that Bristol stool scale, it shows you kind of what's normal. Rabbit pellets, constipation, not normal. When you have more of a smooth consistency and it's one long piece, that is normal. If it is on the edge of diarrhea, obviously we know that that's not normal. Or if it's kind of chunky and inconsistent, that's not enough fiber. That means there's not enough fiber. Okay, so sometimes there's the bowels, like everything's moving too fast through them. The water isn't sucked out of that GI tract, and so that's how it comes out more as on the diarrhea end. If it's staying in there too long and like you're not moving your body well, you're not doing that abdominal massage or different like twists or yoga moves, or drinking enough water, eating, foods that kind of constipate, what happens is the GI tract kind of slows down, and then too much water gets out of the system, and then it comes out as constipation. So we want to make sure that we're normal. Now, everybody has kind of a different time frame. Some people, but bowel movements should be consistent. The same way with urination. Like if you really started tracking over several days, if things are going well, you should have normalcy. About every single day, you should be urinating around the same time. About every single day, you should be having a bowel movement around the same time, usually, okay? So some people have one bowel movement a day. Some people have a bowel movement after every meal. Some people are twice a day. Typically, if you're not going every day or every other day, it means you're on the constipated end. Okay, so pay attention to how that goes. And if you put foods in your body and you're putting drinks in your body, what is the response that you're getting? Because your bowels and your urinary system are constantly talking to you. And nobody ever really teaches us this stuff, but we need to know. And it's very habitually trained. So like we can kind of unfortunately train this stuff in not the best way. So we want to make sure that we're not doing that. We want to make sure we're training in the right direction. And I can talk a heck of a lot more about this. I do with my private clients, but I want to give you a taste of it here. Now, the other thing too, last thing I'm going to leave you with is when you are urinating, you want to make sure that your feet are flat. So that sometimes might mean that you need to put something under your feet. You also want to be in a Zen moment, okay? Most of us go in the bathroom and we don't realize it, but we're like, come on, got to get this over with, got to go to the next thing. Yes, but the urinary system doesn't really work that way. It doesn't really fully empty, and it think about that. Like if a bear is chasing you, you're not going to stop and go to the bathroom. Right? You're going to be running. So when we're in this high stress urgent state, it's not really a time. We need to get into a Zen moment, so to speak, on the bathroom. So you can practice some deep breathing, feel your muscles relaxing, feel your abdomen get soft, feel your hips kind of getting heavy and your legs getting heavy, and feet flat on the floor. You actually do want to be sitting on the toilet. So I know that kind of varies depending on where you're going to the bathroom, but in general, you want to be sitting on the toilet. The point of that is that when you're in a squat position or when you're up on your toes, those muscles actually stimulate the pelvic floor, which closes everything. We're trying to relax and open everything so that you can fully empty, okay? So try getting into your Zen moment and actually take some time when you're urinating. Then for bowel movements, your rectum makes like an S curve. Okay. And so if you tend towards constipation, Getting anything around an S-curve is not really very easy. So there's an incredible device called the Squatty Potty, but you don't even need to have that. It actually just has there's a really funny YouTube commercial video that they made about it. But you want to put a stool or lots of books, you want to prop your feet up so that your knees are higher than your hips, okay? And everybody's angle is a little bit different. Some people need them really high, some people need them a little bit high. But you put your knees higher than your hips, you still want your feet nice and flat. You still want to get into your Zen moment and be relaxed, okay? But we do not want to have to bear down or really have to push into a bowel movement. Instead, it should easily come. If you feel the need to push, you can take your hand, you can make like a fist, and you can blow like you are blowing up a balloon, because what this does is it more effectively uses the abdomen and it prevents you from getting prolapse, okay? Prolapse, again, is when the organs kind of start migrating south. That can happen from chronic constipation, that can happen from just straining for long amounts of time, that can happen from having children, it can happen from weakness, all sorts of different little things, okay? So if you're just joining me, hello and thank you. I'm gonna wrap it up now, so go back and kind of watch the whole video, leave your comments, let me know what you think about this. But elimination is everything, and it can tell you so much about your body. So I hope that you enjoy this, and I'll be talking to you soon. See you in the group.